Hello and welcome to the World Football Show here on Sports Tonight Live. I'm Mina Rzouki and I'm feeling a little bit fragile today, but I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Gabriele Marcotti. Hello, how are you?
Hello, we'll do our best to be understanding of your fragility.
Thank you so much. And of course we have Raphael Honigstein, who I'm sure will not do his best. How are you, Raph?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Today we're going to be starting off by discussing Spain and of course La Liga and Messi scoring 4. Are we surprised by this?
Is La Liga still on? I thought they'd stopped playing.
Stop it. That's not very kind. It is actually. Admittedly, the ship may have sailed, but
they might as well stop it at this.
I'm going to start with Real Madrid on Saturday night because I really like what he's doing. The way now he's, you put Granero in there, you put Kaká in there. Kaká played very well. Racing, admittedly, are terrible, but he's using the whole squad. It's not. It's almost like he's sort of preparing himself for what could happen down the road where he's really going to be judged on the Champions League. That's
true. He's actually, the one thing that Madrid have over everyone else is the fact that they have strength and depth. And now that you have, essentially they were relying so much on Xabi Alonso, and now they have people who are coming back like Kaká, who takes the ball, helps out in the creativity in the middle of the park, and of course Granero did a really good job.
I also think they're benefiting from the aura that he's created. I think most teams go into that game feeling defeated. It's a little bit like it was maybe 2-3 years ago with Barcelona. Now Barcelona look a lot more vulnerable. Teams think that if they can go at them, they have not quite the mental toughness that they have. Where I think Madrid, even Barcelona, are just like a machine. And you just see that teams, of course, the Spanish teams always try to play positively, or most of them even themselves. But I think there always seems to be that point in the game where you see the machine kicking in, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of resistance to that.
I'm wondering if going forward, the other thing he's going to have to deal with is obviously Di Maria came back, scored a great goal. We'd seen a little bit of Di Maria playing in a central position before he got hurt, and I thought he did really well. He's done well in that central position for Argentina. Can we foresee a scenario where he might have to make some decisions vis-a-vis Di Maria and Ozil and possibly even Ricky Kaká?
Yeah, I think he probably won't see it as a decision. I think he'll see it as another option, as a flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, he started rotating in the league. I think he has to keep everyone happy. I think that's
there's so many league things. This is agent speak. Okay, there's so many games. It always happens. Like oh look, it's like Drogba, and then here comes Torres. Like oh, so many games. Yeah. Everybody's happy.
But they really do. I guess.
Who would you play though? I mean, because Ozil this season,
I'd keep Kaká.
He's had 2 good games. Will you play Kaká ahead of Ozil? I was actually thinking.
No, Kaká and Ozil together, and leave Di Maria on the bench.
And so have a line of 3, the 2 of them with Ronaldo.
Yes, basically.
I tell you what the problem is. The problem is if you're Real Madrid, they won't give somebody, even like Ozil, although they've been very tolerant to him up to a point, they won't give somebody like that the benefit of 1 or 2 bad games, because there's so much quality on the bench that immediately you get the calls from the fans and also from the media to get the other guy in.
Yeah.
And that's why almost I think there doesn't have to be a decision, because Mourinho can just mix it up, see who's in form, who isn't, and rely on the team on the whole to function well enough to accommodate the constant changing.
The problem with rotation, I always kind of feel like there's more things to get wrong as well. It has its benefits, but easier to screw things up. We're talking some Barca, but before that, Mina and I have deputized Rafi to go on a hunt for the mysterious and elusive Nouri Sahin. Now we saw an appearance at pitchside. Do we know anything more about what's going on with him? Do people in Germany care?
Well, there's a big.
Is he hanging out at Hamid Altintop's
Wait,
house?
wasn't he supposed to be going back? I mean, I heard
rumors that there was this idea that he might come back on loan, just to get a bit more match practice.
And also, they could do with him back.
Who?
Well, I think
I think so.
Well,
I think
they figured out a way to play without him. So to now take him back, I think would kind of upset the balance a little bit. Right. But it's a bit of a shame for him, because I think he Sahin would have fit into this team really well.
Do we have any idea whether the special one just doesn't like him, or
no? It's all to do with his injury. I mean, the special one very much liked him. It was one of his personal signings. He's got a very close relationship with his agent, as you know.
Yeah,
and with Hamid Altintop, and with Hamid Altintop's agent. So I can only deduct that Sahin is still not 100%, which is a big shame, because this guy was really coming to great form and looking like one of the superstars in that position last year.
He was the guy that was going to, help Xabi Alonso alongside him, and so that they, have something from the bag, some kind of, creativity. But actually, we've got Tim with us. Tim, do you know what's happening with Şahin?
He's out there somewhere, but as you said, he's been spotted. You just can't see him playing this season, basically. He's caught in a sort of chicken-egg situation or a vicious circle in the sense that he can't get match fit because there's not enough games where he's going to play and Mourinho's not going to play him. And he's not going to play until he's match fit. And there's no reserve system with Real Madrid or in the Spanish league. So I think it's going to be a lost season because Mourinho's not going to gamble by putting him on the pitch. Not even 15 minutes, it seems, at the moment, at the end of games. Saturday's game against Racing Santander would have been perfect.
Tim, sorry, on that point, I don't even know if you can legally do this, but could he send him down to Real Madrid B, to the old Castilla?
No, you can only move up from Castilla into the first team. You can't play in the second team if you're a first teamer, so you can only move down. So you can only move up. So that's actually not an option. Where obviously you got in England reserve team leagues and things like that, and it's a bit of a problem here. But it also means that younger players do get to develop without having bigger players coming in and taking their place for a month or two. But it does mean that players like Şahin can just lose an entire season, or someone like Ranieri can spend most of the season on the bench before just coming in for 3 or 4 games to take over from Sami Khedira, who's on his way back. So it's even less chance of Şahin coming in now.
All right, enough Şahin, and we're going to talk some Pep Guardiola. But before that, we talked about this briefly before. We got to give a shout out to Leo Messi.
Yeah, exactly. After everyone saying that he was tired.
4 goals, Tim. Somebody tweeted this the other night. He scored 27 goals this season. Ronaldo has 28, but
1 goal behind.
He only has 2 penalties, whereas Ronaldo has 10 penalties. 25 goals from open play is kind of surreal, isn't it?
It's absolutely incredible. However, people who want to defend Cristiano Ronaldo, pretty much half of his goals are away from home, where Messi's only scored something like 4 goals away from home in the league. But he was outstanding, wasn't he, on Sunday night? It was incredible. Just because he doesn't score for a couple of games in the league, people say, he's gone. As said, Messi's back again. He never went anywhere. He's not able to score 3 or 4 goals in every single game, but he had a fantastic game against Malaga. Remember that about a month ago. A couple of quiet ones, and again, he was at his absolute best, and Diego Alves really stopped an absolute rout. It was a brilliant performance in Barcelona, but the problem with Barcelona is that they either seem to be able to play at 9 out of 10 or 4 out of 10. They don't seem to be able to get that 6 or 7 out of 10 consistency that Real Madrid get, where they can beat Racing 4-0 without trying whatsoever. Barca can't do that. They either thrash teams or they're terrible.
Okay, now I want to talk a little bit about the fact that Pep Guardiola, and we have that whole contract dispute. Every year we go through this, is he leaving, is he staying? I genuinely thought afterwards that Luis Enrique would take over because one stage he would leave. And now we're back again to the story. Is Pep Guardiola going to leave? Do you think that will happen?
I think it's 50-50 at the moment. He's normally got this resolved by now. He prefers to go year on year, and that's how he prefers to work, and it's quite sensible because he doesn't want to tie himself into a contract when he might just wake up in the morning and not really want to do it. He's clearly
sorry, Tim, sorry. On that point, why is that sensible from his perspective? So he ties himself into a contract, and then he realizes, I don't want to do it. I want to go back to hang out in Qatar or whatever it is he does in his spare time. So he resigns, and they rip up his contract. So it's not like they're going to shoot him or they're going to hold a gun to his head and force him to manage, right?
Because he's a man of honour and he doesn't want to let down Barcelona.
I don't know why that's
committing something. That's basically what he does say. He doesn't want to commit to something where he's not completely sure of it. So he doesn't want to say to the club, I'm going to be here 2-3 years when he doesn't feel it. So that's what his argument is. It says it's probably not great for the club.
So
they'd like him to know if they're going to stay 2 or 3
you
years.
You speak of honour, yeah? But you're saying it's honourable to continue having the fans wondering what on earth is going to happen after he goes, whether he's staying, whether he's going. Particularly if I was a big fan of Barcelona, I'm not going to be that happy when every year I'm left on tenterhooks to wonder whether or not my coach wants to stay or not, or whether he feels that he's just about committed to the cause or not.
Well, also, Mina,
surely that's not an honourable thing.
Also the players.
I think
Alexis Sanchez signed a contract to join Barcelona.
Imagine he said, I want a 1-year contract
and
the sponsors,
the Qatar Foundation, do they want? How do they know Guardiola leaves and he's replaced by some turd? He's replaced by Michael Skibbe, for example. Did anybody give Guardiola static over this?
The message in the Barcelona press is that Pep Guardiola can take as long as he likes. He can do whatever he likes. He's earned more than enough credit to be able to act on his contracts how he wants.
Well, Marcello Lippi won the World Cup. He wasn't offered that. What do you think of this, Ralph?
Well, I would be very unhappy if I was a director at Barcelona, if I was a fan of Barcelona. going into every spring, just when the title starts, being decided, when it gets really tough, and then you have that extra problem at the back that exercises and keeps everyone on tenterhooks, as you said. I don't understand why he cannot make up his mind earlier. I mean, does he really need to wait until February, March every year?
Exactly.
Tim,
he's a very instinctive person. He always talks about this feeling, which is why he's moved on players like Ronaldinho, Eto'o, and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. It may not have always made tactical sense. He's very much instinct to what he feels like. If he still feels that he's not sure whether or not he can continue with the job, then he wants to take a little bit more time rather than committing and then maybe getting to the summer and then going, you know what, actually, I don't want to do this.
Tim, I think we're understanding his viewpoint. What I want to get from you, though, is I can see, I'm actually a big Pep Guardiola fan, and I was being a bit of a devil's advocate before, but I can see the argument at Barcelona where he's built up the credit and the club is set up a certain way, and, worst case, he walks away, the club will continue functioning. But I'm wondering, do you think this makes him less employable or less of a good decision for a foreign club elsewhere? Because, every time he says this, he gets linked with clubs all over the world, from Arsenal to Inter Milan to, United to take over from Fergie, whatever else. But, would it be even more difficult at a foreign club, where he doesn't have that history and he doesn't have that link with the club, for a foreign employer to put up with this year on year?
Well, for a club like Chelsea, it'd be fantastic if Pep willingly agrees to only sign 1 year, because it'll save him a lot of money when they sack him after 6 months or so. I think his international credit is so high that if he said, you know what, I'd really like to go to Inter or I'd like to move to Arsenal, they'd snap him up, they'd give him anything he wants, even if he only wanted to sign a 1 year deal. Let's face it, he has actually stayed he's due to stay for 4 years, so it's not as if he's moving on quickly. He may stay on till 5. He just, at the moment, I think he's just mentally very, very tired by having to keep Barcelona at this level, so maybe he just wants to take a moment and think, does he actually want to commit to another year? But you can certainly see where the directors are coming from, but they've just said he can take all the time he wants.
Tim, I think Gabi is raising an excellent point, because in other countries where you don't have necessarily a media that supports a specific team, but actually is slightly more neutral and will start asking questions and will start speculating, I think this would be a very unsettling and destabilising state of affairs to have your manager out of contract, almost, as it were, from the moment you sign him. But what has happened? You said the Barcelona press, they've given all the credit, etc. But what has happened in a wider scale in the neutrals in El País, etc.? Are they talking about possible candidates? Are they linking who could take over? Is there actually an option on the table if the guy decides tomorrow, you know what, I've had enough?
The most obvious one is Luis Enrique, but the ideal situation, if Pep Guardiola did want to leave, he would stay perhaps 1 more year, do a 5-year stint at Barcelona, Enrique get another year at Roma and get a lot more experience and then come back. That's the best alternative. There are other names being thrown around. Marcelo Bielsa was talked about for a while, which I just don't think he'd be able to handle the pressure of the Barca job. It's just fingers crossed at Barca that Pep Guardiola stays, and the word, that there's real panic that if he leaves, what would be the next option?
Well, it's likely that he will be staying. But thank you so much for your time, Tim. Excellent report there in Football 365 on that. But guys, I wanted to discuss that. Obviously, just the Ever Banega injury. Is that the most freakiest thing that happened so far in football?
I have to say, this kind of annoyed me. Because this came out in we saw it on Twitter, like, ha, 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 what if, for those who don't know, he didn't put the handbrake properly in his car, and his car ran him over. Now, I believe
trapped his ankle.
I know you're more of a sort of a hip hop fan than I am. I believe Harvey suffered a similar.
What are you saying?
Hip hop fan.
Oh, fan. Sorry.
Did he call me a? Did
no,
you?
I called him a fan.
Did,
But this happened. But I don't think this is funny. I think it's actually pretty sad that he's 6 months out. And, if he'd slipped on the ice, we wouldn't all be having a giggle about this. And
I don't know, I find that kind of funny, slipping on ice.
Obviously, he has very dark
German.
humour. He's German.
If it was banana
You're right. By the way, it is actually a mean thing to be laughing about. But, it is kind of a mean thing. I know that you're a bit sadistic in that way, but... come on, he's out for 6 months and he's so,
Serves you right,
He doesn't put the handbrake on, but these things happen when you're
Do they?
so... I think so. I've done really silly things like this
Has
before.
your own car run you over?
Never,
before?
no.
I think adding insult to injury, of course, getting spanked 5-1 away. at the weekend. We were going to talk about Zaragoza, where this mad president, Agavito Iglesias.
Of course.
But guess what? We're out of time this week.
And this always happens with Zaragoza.
Exactly.
But we really have to tell you all about it. But that's all we have time for on Spain. But come back to us after the break and we'll be discussing all the rest of football in Europe. See you then.
All right, we're back. On y va to Italy. And that doesn't quite make sense, but of course it's appropriate because we're starting at Juventus, which have always sort of been the most Gallic French club. Wouldn't you agree, Mina?
French club?
The most Gallic Italian club.
Oh,
you know
right,
what I mean,
okay.
right?
Yes, of course.
Turin, you know, no?
Totally.
House of Savoy, all that good stuff. But, I mean, big weekend for Juve. Antonio Conte looking more and more nervous.
Important weekend for Juve.
Still unbeaten, 2 straight draws. What does he do? He makes 5 changes. He drops the 2 good strikers for the handsome but rubbish one and the underachieving one.
No.
But you won.
You know what? I thought that actually you make a really good point about the dropping 5. That's what's so great about Conte. Is he's not scared of chopping and changing, and he is constantly looking to see how he can improve.
Rafi made a face.
I think you're starting from the result and then working backwards. You know, if
what, is it in the beginning?
Yeah, no, but if they don't win that game, you know, I think the knives would have been out for Conte. And now you're saying, oh,
why?
this
Because
was
the knives would have been out. Would have been his first defeat of the season.
I have to say,
but
absolutely
too many
not.
draws, that's the problem.
It's too many draws, but absolutely not. It wouldn't have been against Conte. It's very much that everyone is unaware of the fact that Juventus, as a team, is splendid. They have an identity. They're cohesive. They attack in the same ways. The problem with it is that they lack a quality striker who can convert because they create so many chances. But I have to say, like, without Lichtsteiner, you could really tell, like, on the right flank, they had nothing going on for them. Paduin was, in my opinion, quite terrible. And
I'm
then you have Paolo
surprised he hasn't tried Vidal on the right, because Vidal used to be a right back.
Vidal was suspended for that match.
No, but I'm saying throughout the season.
He does. And when they play 4-3-3, Vidal tends to play more on the right wing.
But why not
He means play him. He's going to play 3 at the back.
Yeah.
You could play him as a fullback.
No, not when you have Lichtsteiner.
I think part of the problem is they don't have enough quality bodies in midfield. If you start doing that, then you're down to Marchisio and Pirlo in the middle of the park. Unless you want to play Padoin in the middle, but then Mina doesn't like it, or you play Giaccherini.
It's just that Vidal is what he's so great at, and you really saw that missing. He gives you the energy, and he's when they go back, when they're dispossessed, he keeps chasing them to get the ball back high up the pitch, and you don't want to lose that quality in midfield because that's essentially what makes Juventus.
With the strikers, when you know Borriello, Quagliarella, Matri, and Vucinic,
none of them are world class.
Much of a muchness, or as Rafi might say disparagingly, they're all just average. So it's down to having a good manager who can pick the right guys at the right time, and it obviously worked out for them.
Yeah. So what is your hunch?
But it did.
Their way of winning the title will be not to lose games and not to concede. They have the meanest defence, and they'll somehow rely on with their power to somehow score.
You're right. Yes.
But Milan go the other way around. I would say.
Yes.
It's a team versus individuals.
Milan
are basically
technically superior.
What is your sense for the rest of the league?
I think the edge is with Juventus actually right now, because I think I could see Ibrahimovic going nuts. I could see Milan advancing in the Champions League, and that taking all their basically distracting them between the season. Yeah.
I don't know about you. I would like to say that, but I think this game against Catania proved a lot, because you could see that they were so desperate, and even after they conceded a goal, went 1 goal down after 3 minutes, you could tell that they were still calm. So that maybe gives them the edge. Although with Milan, when they're on fire, and the fact that now Robinho is actually scoring, I mean, I never thought I'd see that happening.
We'll see if it lasts. I mean, I think 2 games a bit early. But we're going to get stuck in more into Milan with Tancredible, who will be joining us in a minute. But first, I want to talk about the other side of Milan, the blue and black side, the pretty crummy side.
I'm surprised you want to talk about that.
Humiliated at home, 3-0,
Yes.
Horrible defending. But there is some humor to be had in all this, and it's not just, those, not Claudio Ranieri's humor. But here we see there's a kid, this little boy named Filippo, who incidentally is not that 40-looking something
No,
man
it's the
there
one
under the
below.
arrow.
You can't
It's
see
another
it
guy
very
who's not in the picture, who's basically saying, you know, he's an Inter fan. He's saying, can you please win? Because otherwise, when I go to school, people make fun of me. Thank you, Filippo. So,
that's so cute.
little Filippo became a bit of a, you know, something of a household name.
9-year-old
Javier
boy.
Zanetti went to meet him and, you know, I guess told him to buck up a little bit. Basically, I think had to lie to him. But there were responses from elsewhere. This is from Juventus fans who came up with a very helpful bit of advice. Either you switch schools or you switch teams. And of course, Milan fans had their own advice, Milan fans being incredibly creative. And they said, this was a message to their own team, hey Milan, keep winning so that I can keep making fun of Filippo in school.
This boy has become a sensation.
Yeah, all a bit of fun, but...
Do you think Wesley Sneijder found that all funny?
You know what, listen, the thing that my take on Wesley Sneijder right now is, okay, he's one of the 5 highest paid players in the world, so he's money, so he's definitely happy. On top of that, he's a born-again Christian, so he's got a personal relationship with God. So I don't want to hear Sneijder ever talk about being unhappy in any way, because when you've got money and you've got your religion that you talk about 24/7 at the same time, I expect you to STFU and kind of get on with your job.
It took me a while to realize what STF was. He must be really good friends with Le Grottaglie.
No, it's a different God.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, Le Grottaglie is very big on, you know, Le Grottaglie is a born-again virgin, and he's very proud of that.
Is such a thing?
Apparently.
Apparently, yes.
Sneijder
You
most
wouldn't
definitely
know.
is not.
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
On that note, we're joined.
You're taking care of my fragility.
We're joined by Tancredi Palmieri in Milan. Tancredi,
Not in Milan, and I'm your man here in Stadio San Paolo from Napoli.
Woohoo!
Oh, lucky man, ahead of the big game.
Whoa,
Have you had some mozzarella yet?
And just in this room, just beside me, is just full of all of your English colleagues that are wondering if this will be the last trip of them in Champions League.
Have you indulged in Cavani merchandise? Or had any of the...
Yes, Cavani, but especially Lavezzi, I must say. Since this morning I arrived in Napoli, it's just Lavezzi talking in every corner. Seriously. I knew that the Lavezzi fever here is very high. Also, I knew since I came here in Napoli from Napoli Manchester City in the previous game in the group stage. But now it's really blowing out. I mean, the Lavezzi fever, also because of his performances against Chievo and especially Fiorentina, the Lavezzi fever is just you can't keep under control.
Tancredi, sorry, before we go to Napoli, just one quick thing on Inter that I really have to ask. Do you think it was a wise move from Ranieri to start talking about the formation and the problem that Sneijder creates? I mean, he was saying he is not a problem, he might be the solution, but he was really saying he is a problem. And that it affects the midfield because the guy doesn't come back and he has to switch it and he can't really see him playing there anymore. I mean, was that a right thing to do, or what do you think the response would be to that?
Well, Rafa, it depends from the point of view that you see that. If your point of view is playing Sneijder the best as you can, playing one of the probably top 10 football players in the world the best as you can, you are right, and I agree with you. But if the Ranieri point of view would be that he want to be free to rule out Sneijder without being bothered why he's ruling out Sneijder, so in that case, he could be right. My opinion is that if you have a team like Inter, groggy, like in this moment, thinking that Sneijder could be the first of your problems is just crazy. Honestly, simply.
I agree.
I agree with Tancredi, but whichever way you slice the Sneijder thing, Rafi, I so disagree with you at the point. Here you have a manager answering a tactical question honestly. Snyder's not an idiot. He knows that when he's on the pitch, because he's about 3 feet tall and he doesn't run, other people have to run harder. It's there for everybody to see. Why duck the problem and throw out more lies? I'm not going to blame.
No, but you can be a bit more diplomatic. I don't think you have to necessarily personalize the issue as it was.
He's a star. It's about him.
But it shouldn't be. But it shouldn't be about him.
Because
he should be part of the solution. He shouldn't be part of the problem. But by making him part of the problem, he creates a diversion from the real problem, in my view,
Which is
that
defense.
Inter as a team just doesn't function.
Yes.
And you take
Yes.
out Snyder.
But when
maybe
Snyder
true,
wasn't
it's a
there,
little
they
bit-
won 7 games in a
Yeah, but
row.
they-
Yeah,
That
but
was
we looked
flattering
at
them.
that.
They
We
still
thought
didn't
that was
function
flattering.
well.
You knew exactly that despite the fact that they were winning, there were still teams that they came up against that were going through their own moments of...
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, so when Inter
you know,
win,
guys, we have
it's
been-
because
No,
the opposition
no, no,
plays
no, we're not
badly.
saying that.
Otherwise, Inter just suck. It's a big, giant turd.
Listen.
Tancredi,
Oh,
enough
wow,
Inter.
someone's a bit
Let's
defensive
move on
over
to something slightly cheerier, which is Milan, as displayed by the smiling face of Robinho. Against Cesena, they went out there, they demolished them. Few wobbles when Cesena pulled a goal back with Budil, but then in the end they won. Can Robinho be a bit of an added value between now and the end of the season?
Now that he's finally scoring.
And happy.
Honestly, I have to say one thing. I don't want to be the anti-conformist, but if someone is hailing to the Milan's performance against Cesena as, oh, the great team has finally came back, honestly, I think it's just, to say the less, unfair. Because Cesena simply came out hoping that the 19 minutes would arrive as soon as possible. He didn't do nothing. The only chance that a team like Cesena has in Italy to stop a team like Milan is just pressing all the time and maybe finally achieve a 0-0, or maybe, have a shot from Iaquinta, from Mutu, one of the few weapons that they have. But they didn't press. They gave 80 meters. Even when they were in defense, they were just really hoping. Milan, without playing so good the ball, had something like 5 clear chances in the first 10 minutes.
Yes.
Today was
Okay,
reported
but
that
Tancredi, that's great, but listen, you're saying Cesena are rubbish, so the fact that Robinho scored is irrelevant. Is
No,
that
but he's
basically
saying
what
is that
you're
they're
saying?
not putting up much of a fight. So, of course, in that sense, you look like Milan are like the most amazing team. And Robinho is all of a sudden transformed into a goal-scoring machine.
So my question was whether Robinho could be an added value between now and the end of the season, and Tancredi says no. Because Cesena were rubbish.
Yes.
Is that fair?
We talked about Robinho last week, you remember, and I still stick to the point that one thing is Robinho with Ibrahimovic beside, one thing is Robinho without Ibrahimovic. So, all the topic point is, will Ibrahimovic play against Juventus, yes or no? Because if Ibrahimovic will play, so Robinho could be the good finisher, as he was against Arsenal, could be the guy that can help. But if Ibrahimovic will be out, as well as Boateng seems that will be out, honestly, I still stick to the point that when the game is getting hard, he's just not feeling that he has to be the star to carry on his shoulder all the team.
Speaking of stars to carry teams on their shoulders, one guy who I think we can all agree will most definitely not be doing that is Sully Buntari, who nevertheless scored in his debut after coming over on loan from Inter. And Tancredi, I don't think you'll be able to see this, but we can see this. Here is the celebration by the celebrity Milan fan, and you may also know them as a guy who shills for bookmakers, Tiziano Crudeli. You see, Tancredi, this is the humiliation I have to put up with. We gave the world the Renaissance, we gave the world aqueducts, and 90% of the world's sort of UNESCO architectural treasures, and then we also gave them this freak. But anyway.
At least there's passion. At least you're not watching a game where it's like, oh, and a goal is scored. Wonderful.
Yeah,
okay, but still, come on.
Tancredi, final word just to wrap up on this. Roma against Parma. Now, I know we've had so many false starts, but they won 1-0. They could have won 10-0. The Parma goalkeeper, I thought, was perhaps putting the goalkeeping performance of the weekend. Osvaldo's back, not at his best yet, but are Roma the most credible candidates for the third Champions League spot, or is it Napoli?
Well, no, honestly, I think that Roma, if wouldn't have dropped too many points at the beginning of the season, they could be also a candidate to race at least at the first spot, even for the Scudetto, because there is, in my opinion, no doubt that after Juventus and probably after Udinese, they are playing the best football in Italy, but more than Udinese, they have wider possibilities of players. Now Osvaldo is back, as you said, and Osvaldo is a real precious for the kind of playing of Luis Enrique. They don't have cups, they don't have Italian Cup, and they don't have, most of all, any pressure, because if Inter will miss the Champions League spot, it will be a tragedy. Also maybe with Lazio, because Lazio was likely to be the third one. If Roma will arrive 5th or 6th, they will say, okay guys, this has been the building up, the coming back here, the coming back season, but we loved you, we trusted you. And everything, it's up to the club, because when they supported Luis
No matter what you say, Roma definitely has a chance going, but I cannot see Lazio any doing that after their humiliation over the weekend against Palermo. But Gab, this is our favourite. Thank you so much, by the way, Tancredi. We will enjoy the game tomorrow, and Forza Italia.
I will order a pizza also for you, okay? I will order a pizza Mina, okay?
Oh, yay!
Grazie Tancredi, vola Ciuccio, and it's that time.
It's that time.
We
It's
put
the
on our
Vieri
dancing
time.
shoes. Who's psyched for a bit of the old Bobo Vieri?
The capoeira time.
Yes. This is capoeira, of course. Which,
What is he doing?
Brazilian
Looks like a
martial
gymnastics
art.
time.
Did his partner resign?
I think he stomped on her. He fell on her early on, and she had to pull out.
Oh my God.
I have to say though,
can't
I'm not
make
an
me laugh
expert in
this
capoeira,
much.
but those other dudes look kind of silly too. Whoopsie.
My producers asked me to not fall over from laughing. He actually looks horrendous.
Right.
Poor guy.
There you go. I have to say, Bobo, at least you're doing it for charity. Tiziano Crudeli does this for a living. We'll be back.
Entertaining the masses.
All right, we're back, ready to get stuck into the tightest league competition in Europe, and that would be the Bundesliga. Raf, let's start with the team on top, Borussia Dortmund. We've been praising their energy and all this stuff, and they play great football, but it's kind of 2 weeks in a row when actually they haven't necessarily played great football. This weekend, without not just Mario Götze, who's been out for a while, also Shinji Kagawa. But they got the win. Is this one of those situations where it's actually a great sign when you've got a team that can get the 3 points while not playing well?
That's very much how the win was interpreted. I mean, Grosskreutz scored from a situation where most players might panic, but he was very quick. He reacted, turned his back, and scored with a overhead kick to get them the win, which was not a great performance, as you said. And I think in the absence of Kagawa and Götze, they are looking a little bit bereft of ideas in the final third. They can still create chances with their energy, with their movement, but the sort of the intricacy is not quite there.
Grosskreutz, whose name means big cross, of course, Mina.
Right, okay. You see, I think Borussia Dortmund, I really enjoy the way that they're playing football, but I still can't see them in any way being able to continuously compete but in different competitions. Like, you know, obviously that, you know, they'll do really well in the league, but do they have the kind of football that will see them manage it in the Champions League? And
Well, they don't have that problem this year. They're not in the Champions League.
But
so.
Mina's
No, I
saying
know,
that
but as in
forward,
going
that is,
forward.
of course, the big accusation against them, that they haven't really figured out a way to transform that high-intensity game
Is it
onto
too
the European
intense?
stage. I think that teams who are a little bit wiser to the kind of pressing in Europe have figured out ways, if they keep the ball just a little bit better and use their street smartness, they can score. Also, I think Dortmund, the way they played, the lack of experience came through, especially at the back. They made mistakes as sort of, you would say they were kind of rookie mistakes, lack of concentration, people losing their man, people switching off from corners, that kind of stuff, which with a bit more...
We're talking about events 2 months ago. Let's keep it in the present. And I think going forward, actually, there is a lot of depth in the squad. Santana, Leitner, Bias, I'm assuming will go, but Royce is going to come in next year. I mean, they do have options. They do have Perisic, Gundogan. They've got a whole bunch of bodies,
especially vis-a-vis
which you didn't have
Bayern,
before.
who Bayern will be very much
Well,
distracted.
let's move to Bayern, in fact, and because obviously 2 points dropped against the worst defense, Freiburg, That's really bad, isn't it?
It was quite bad. I mean, Freiburg, well worth the point. They really played superbly.
I thought they did really well.
With the tools at their disposal, they played a fantastic pressing game, something which we haven't seen for a while because under the Heinkes Bayern, most teams were defending very deeply and then let Bayern figure out a way to beat them, and they've been struggling to do that. But now they went back to sort of the Van Gaal tactics, that whenever Van Gaal's team was pressed, they struggled a lot, and Freiburg did it so well that Bayern in the first half took 44 minutes to create anything, which was resembling a chance. In the second half, he made a lot of changes.
Well, he switched it up at half-time. Robin coming on for Rafinha, rejiggering, Kroos sitting a bit deeper, which we went back to what we said doesn't work, or we all thought didn't work, Kroos behind Muller, and on this occasion it didn't work.
It actually worked a lot better. I mean, they looked a lot better going forward. They created more chances, and by the end, Freiburg were kind of just holding on to it. But I think the sense was Bayern was so lethargic, and Heinkes pointed it out.
They're missing Schweinsteiger, right?
No, I don't think. I don't think. Honestly, this is an example where you can say the tactics were wrong or the positional play was wrong. This was a team that just didn't play with enough intensity. You could see that in the second half, when once Heinkes had talked to them and really shouted them, everyone was running a little bit more, and suddenly the movement was something that was very difficult to pick up for Freiburg. Freiburg did so well because Bayern was static. They were playing the positional play where everyone kept their position the whole time, and if you closed those men down, they had nowhere to go.
So
and once they started moving a little bit, it worked much better.
Can we have a moment for the fact that Freiburg have been doing rather well
Stop
recently?
talking about Freiburg.
No, because I think it's important that we do that, because they are the new Gladbach. 5 points, 5 games, yeah, and they're against like Wolfsburg, Werder Bremen, Bayern Munich.
5 points in 5 games, tremendous.
Okay, well, I mean, they're bottom of the table, but they've got
to be the new Gladbach,
sure,
and challenging for the title.
I agree with you, but they're promoting youth, and they're.
We've got lots to pack in on this segment.
Fine, no more Freiburg.
We got to give a mention to. Listen, if they do as well as you say they will, I'm sure we'll be speaking about them next week. But we got to give a mention to Gladbach because they just keep rolling. Herman this week, I thought made a difference.
He made a difference, but he also broke his shoulder blade.
And there'll be no more.
Is a problem. He might not even play, until the very end of the season. It's a big blow for them, especially because Royce, I think, is someone that the opposition always focus on. And they try to pick him up. But this guy has sort of come in from the blind side since the winter break. It's been absolutely sensational. He was about to get a call-up for the national team as well to play against France. It's a big blow for him personally. But as a team, Gladbach didn't seem to miss a beat. I mean, Arango has really turned up in the last few weeks. If you get a chance to look at his goal, it's just an all-time fantastic goal with the outside of the boot, first-time take. Wonderful, the kind of goals that you used to see in the 70s and 80s where players would just specialise in kicking with the outside of the boot.
It is one for the purists. It's on YouTube, and
it's one for the oldies.
Yeah, he scored goals. Thank you. He scored goals like these before, so it wasn't entirely by chance. Obviously, good weekend, I guess, all around for Dortmund in light of that with the Herman injury. The other team that we thought might fall away hasn't quite fallen away. Schalke, big winners. Raul, one of your guys, right? You big Raul fan?
Yeah, all right.
Number 400 in his career.
This is the thing about Raul. Wherever you take him, he's always going to be that competitive and eager to win, and he's so important now for them, isn't he?
He's been a superb professional because he
really.
Let's be honest. He signed for Schalke not necessarily because he wanted the challenge, or he liked living in Düsseldorf so much. They made the best offer. They made better offers than some of the Premier League clubs who were trying. Don't know how hard they were trying, but who were sort of linking themselves with him. He went there, but he's been absolutely sensational. And now, in Huntelaar, he's got a guy who's just can't stop scoring. Yes. Even when he doesn't score, he missed a penalty, he still scores 2 goals. And he's now up to 18, along with Mario Gomez. And if he could continue scoring like that, I mean, Schalke, as you said, they look like falling away, but going forward, they might have the best offensive partnership in the league at the moment.
In Huntelaar and Raul. Is it still a 4-horse race?
No.
Quickly?
3-horse.
On paper, yes, but I don't think Schalke have quite got what it takes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and if I'd rule out Gladbach at this point as well. Just to wrap up Germany, Otto Rehhagel, 72, 73 years young. I'm not quite sure when his birthday is, but in any case, I believe he was born in 1939. He's back. Is he the man to save Hertha Berlin? Why go to somebody that age?
Well, it's slightly bizarre and it's very left field. I think he still has an aura, he has a presence. I think one thing he will do is take all the pressure and move it from the team onto him. He is the story, you know, he's the centre of attention. Whatever happens, the team kind of almost can play without the pressure because it'll be seen as his failure or as the failure of the sporting director, Michael Parry, who got the guy in, where no one thought about him being a possible solution. But, you know, a few years ago when Dortmund were really struggling, they got Udo Lattek, who was a similar age at the time, and admittedly with Matthias Sammer as a sidekick, but they got Udo Lattek back to save the team and it worked. So they probably thought about that and think, you know, a guy like that might just have enough for a couple of months that are left in the season.
Lattek and Sammer, remember that, the geriatric and the ginger combination. But let's move across to France because Andy Brassell's joining us and we've got a top of the table clash, Paris Saint-Germain and Montpellier. They went into it separated by a single point, and when the dust settled, it was still a single point, but was Paris Saint-Germain a bit lucky with that late equaliser through Guillaume Moreau? Did they deserve it, Andy?
Well, they were and they weren't, Gabriel. I think really this sort of summed up exactly why Paris Saint-Germain are not the best team in the league, but exactly why they'll win it. It was just really like when Lille, the champions, visited the Parc des Princes in December. They had nearly 60% of the possession. They were by far the more composed, cohesive team. PSG were playing on the break. And it was the same at half-time when they interview the players when they come off the pitch in France, and they spoke to Younes Belhanda, Montpellier's playmaker who scored their equaliser, as he came off at half-time. And he said, well, yeah, it's great to get back into it, but we'll have to watch out for them on the break, which is an extraordinary thing to say when you're the modest away team, away to the biggest club in the league, who have 5 times the budget that you do. But they did dominate that game, Montpellier. But there was always that feeling that Paris could produce that moment of individual brilliance to come up with something, and that's what they did. Menez completely tore Yango Mbiwa, who's one of the best centre-backs in the league, to pieces to lay on the equaliser for Waro. So I think that shows that despite lacking that bit of cohesion, that's why PSG will probably go on to win the league.
Now, I want to focus on Montpellier in a minute, perhaps, because they've got some guys who are getting a lot of buzz, starting, of course, with Giroud up front. But just on Ancelotti and Paris Saint-Germain, I mean, my understanding is he's outlined that one of the problems is he would like to have a traditional striker if he's going to have all these attacking midfield types, you know, from Menez to Pastore, who came back from injury, to Nene playing off him. And the problem is he doesn't have that type of player, and Horo, who theoretically could be that kind of player, isn't quite up to it. Does he have a point? Is that maybe where they should have spent some money, or is it actually up to Ancelotti to make it work with Gamero and Horo and whatever players he does have?
Well, I think you're dead right, and I think Ancelotti's dead right, and I think that's been one of the themes of PSG's season, really. The fact that if you're going to play on the break, and if you're going to play with one up front, you do need someone who can hold it up. And Gamero is a very, very good striker. He's a French international. He's a good goal scorer. He changed his plans at the last minute, sort of partly at Laurent Blanc's behest, to stay in France. He agreed to move to Valencia. His wife had picked out a house and everything, and he thought it would be better, and Laurent Blanc thought it would be better ahead of Euro 2012 that he stayed. But he's so unsuited to being one up alone. Now, as you say, Waro is a good player, but perhaps not of the profile of where PSG are looking to go. But of course, they're still in development. And with what they've got in that midfield, it's all about the three behind, really. Pastore, Menez and Nene, who has been probably their outstanding outfield player this season. You could argue that Salvatore Sirigu has been their best player. So I think really that's what they're looking at this season. You look at the way Ancelotti's set up, it's a slight switch from the 4-2-3-1 that was happening under Cambuare, and it's become a 4-3-2-1, which is slightly more circumspect. Now, I expect Ancelotti will spread his wings eventually, but for the moment he's playing with what he's got. And we know he doesn't go out and spend transfer money for the sake of it, and I think he's really done the right thing in sticking with what they've got for the moment.
Andy, I'm really interested in PSG and their kind of their vision, or what they're trying to achieve as a project. Have they released their figures, you know, with the money that they must have lost since taking over? And what is the viability plan? I mean, can they ever come close to being sustainable, because UEFA, not people notice, I think, or perhaps realize, but financial fair play has actually kicked in already, and the monitoring has started. And if clubs like PSG lose huge amounts of money, the qualification for the Champions League might not quite work out for them.
Well, I think it's an interesting point, Raf, and I think that they're looking at a couple of things. Firstly, the figures won't come out until about May, June, because the French financial year runs from June till June. But I think what's the interesting thing is the fact that the owners know is not just about making the most of the French market, because that's essentially limited. It's about getting PSG to work in Europe, and even they're looking beyond Europe and to make the connects that they have with the Arab world. Now, they can start with that in France as a sort of test case, of course, because you have a very strong North African community just in Paris, and to mobilise those people, to mobilise the disenfranchised, it's a sort of test about how they can cross over. Now, of course, they're looking for that Arab superstar, really, to come in the team and bring those people on board. And they were looking at Adel Taarabt. Leonardo didn't fancy him, and you have to look at Tarap's form in the Premier League and think he was probably right about that. Belhanda could be the guy. Moroccan international, really silky playmaker, great to watch, and he could be the one. But they've already created Al Jazeera France, which will have the rights from the start of next season to broadcast Liga and specifically PSG back to the Arab world. So that's where they're looking to build.
Well, we could talk all day about Paris Saint-Germain and basically how do you conquer Paris, a city where people don't actually like football, which has always been a bit of a mystery. I think actually cracking down on the ultras, maybe not exactly the cleverest thing to do, certainly not in the way that they did it. But I think, Andy, that's a conversation for another time. As well as, I wanted to get the down low on Montpellier, because I wanted to know more about Girard and their center forward, Giroud, who people think is up for great things, but we'll have to do that another time. We'll add it to the Zaragoza list. What do you say?
Add it to the Zaragoza list
yeah,
for next
we have
week.
ourselves a deal? All righty.
I didn't check.
What?
I didn't check on it.
Well, you might not be here next time.
Okay.
But we will be after this break. And don't worry, so will he.
Hello and welcome back to the World of Football show here on Sports Tonight Live. I'm Mina, Rzouki, and we've managed to keep hold of Rafa for this part. Okay guys, it's my favourite part. I don't know if it's your favourite part, but it is the Dream Team, and we've got the results back for who you guys have chosen to be the two strikers to make our formation complete. And I'm very... Why are you looking at me like that?
No.
Well, anyway... Basically, what you had to do was go onto Twitter, and you have to go to @STWorldFootball and agree with our choice. We're going to be picking manager later on.
Or disagree.
Or disagree.
They could also disagree.
Or choose one of your own. But basically, last week we were up against strikers. I voted for Pele, who won. Yay!
Well played.
You picked Marco van Basten, who got 7%. Sorry there.
Who somehow ended up behind Gerd Muller, the midget accountant-looking type from Bayern in the 1970s.
Accountants aren't that stocky, usually.
Just to point out, Ronaldo came third. That was Andy's choice. But this is
Which
Fat Ronaldo.
Ronaldo would that be?
Fat Ronaldo.
Okay.
Brazilian Ronaldo, sorry, to be less mean. Lionel Messi.
Yeah, what a surprise. It'd be interesting to see the two of them line up together, because I think Pele
with
doesn't really...
Maradona as number 10.
Pele still thinks Lionel Messi is not the complete striker. He needs to really work on his game.
I know, he would have preferred Neymar next to him.
Yeah.
But let's look at the entire team together for the first time. So that's it, we've completed it. What do you guys reckon? I wouldn't go for this team. I think it's defeatable.
Looking side.
I'm still mystified by the Lev Yashin in goal.
Who did you think it should be?
What? Was it Philippe Auclair?
Yeah, he chose. Yeah, but people agreed. People agreed with him.
This is true. We have to say this is a democratic vote. People go out. People agree. Philippe and his multiple Twitter accounts.
Went on it.
In all seriousness,
who's actually seen him?
I mean, I grew up hearing stories of Lev Yashin and Zamora, the legendary Spanish goalkeeper. But the point is, I never saw these people. I wouldn't have been comfortable voting for these guys based on rep, but most of these other people are
Who do you think it was?
YouTubeable.
Would you have gone for Buffon?
Of the goalkeepers I've seen?
Yeah. Who's your best ever goalkeeper?
Of the ones in my lifetime who I've seen, I have a big soft spot.
Who would you have chosen for this team? Don't go, just
I think Buffon would have been in the mix. Fijol would have definitely been in the mix. Peter Schilt.
David Seaman.
Yeah, John Lukic. No, I think actually Ray Clements. But it's just, okay, I mean, this is what makes it fun, is you can read up about these people. And to be fair, something like Lev Yashin, he grew up behind the Iron Curtain. We don't know. I mean, in a different era, he might have moved and played for Real Madrid or Manchester United and, turned into a Peter Schmeichel.
I don't know. I wouldn't have gone for Fabio Cannavaro. That's one that I was really unhappy about.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone for that either.
I would have gone for like Claudio Gentile, or there's millions of centre-backs. Not that keen on the midfield.
Italian
Yeah, so obviously when you're choosing defenders,
I think Raphael has to do a lot of running. Yeah. He will be a very busy man.
Okay,
either that or he just has to stay in the D for 90 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, now manager time. Okay, so we've got our team. So who's the greatest ever manager and who's your pick to actually coach this team? Again, you can go on Twitter and vote, agree with one of us, disagree with one of us, or suggest one of your own. Gabriele, who did you choose?
I'm going to take the easy way out and pick the manager who has won more trophies than any other manager in history at a major club. A manager who won trophies at the huge club he's at right now.
Introduction.
But also won European trophies at the third or possibly fourth biggest club in Scotland. And you know what I'm talking about. It's Sir Alex Ferguson.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
It's funny that. we take the dude for granted, okay? But to be able to stick around, to be able to win over, 5 decades now, as he's done, there's a constant evolution that goes with him.
Sorry, I'm just shocked that you would go for him.
Go ahead, go giggle. Who'd you pick? Some bald guy?
No. I actually went for the guy that revolutionized football.
Some bald guy.
Well, yeah, there's actually some bald guy. I have a thing for baldies. It's Arrigo Sacchi, of course, the man who revolutionized football, who created the best Milan team to have ever graced.
The man who won 1 league title in 4 years.
Yeah, but back-to-back European Cups, thank you very much. And he, of course, had Marco van Basten, who was your pick for best striker. This is a man who took Italy on the brink of winning their World Cup, had it not been for dear Roberto Baggio.
And Franco Baresi. Missing.
Okay, and Franco Baresi missing. Yes, but I mean, it was really Baggio doing that. Anyway, I certainly would say that this is a man who just had beautiful Milan, pressed, refined, seen as a team unit, zonal marking.
I mean, if you talk about sort of tactical contribution to the game, you could argue that he was one of the greatest tacticians ever, but to actually manage a team and manage players and manage
Harry
people,
Redknapp is much better. I agree what you mean. I see what you mean. Man management all the way. Come on, boys, give it your all. Who's your pick?
Yeah, well, despite what I said earlier on, I'm actually going for Pep Guardiola. Yes, of course, he hasn't been around for 3 decades.
He wouldn't be around very long because
he's not been tested with any other, or you
can say that with
Alex
to walk away.
Come on, you need to be able to do this in every league. Marcello Lippi, Fabio Capello Trapattoni.
I know, he's got a lot of negatives, but he's also quite bold, so you should actually back him.
But he's a bit femme looking.
He's a bit femme looking.
He's a bit metrosexual.
The real reason why I'm going for him is because I don't think a team in the modern age, and I'm talking about the last 20 years, has ever played with a style that was so readily recognizable from a guy like that. I think he's really made Barcelona play in a style that's not only revered and respected around the world, but also you could see them, if they were wearing a different shirt, you could see still it was Barcelona. And I think to keep them at the very top is just as good as someone bringing a team to the top for 2-3 years, leaving again, like your friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, for goodness sakes, if you have Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, and you still can't get that team to win, I think that says more about you than being a great coach. But please do, one last time, message us on Twitter. Tweet us with your choice, ST World Football. But that's all we have time for today. Did you guys have fun?
Tremendous.
Always.
Thank you so much for joining us. And that's all we have time for. But next week, we promise we're going to be talking Montpellier, Zaragoza, whatever you want. But next week, we'll see you again. Same time, same place, same football chat. See you then.